Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for The Wheel of Time, Season 2, Episode 4, Daughter of the Night. This was directed by Sana Amri, who also directed the previous episode, written by Dave Hill. Let's go over some of the cast real quick and to get you situated. Rosamund Pike portrays Moraine. Daniel Henney plays Lan. Zoe Robbins plays Nynaeve. Madeline Madden plays Ewain. Joshua Stradowski plays Rand. Marcus Redford plays Perrin. And Kate Fleetwood is Leandrin. Donald Finn as Matt. So, very, very exciting stuff in this episode. I gotta say, I am a little bit proud of myself because uh, I was able to catch some of the things that were happening like all on my own. Like the show's very good and at making some of those things very clear. So there's definitely that. The show is very accessible, I think, when it comes to understanding the lore and making sure that we know, like foreshadowing things that are gonna be paid off. Specifically, you in the same episode, this is kind of the second time that this has happened. So very excited for that. And like I said, I'm just I'm just very proud that I was able to catch on to some of those things. Before we go into that, I do want to go into one of the comments that was left in one of our other videos because I think it's pretty cool, right? First of all, the fact that we're getting comments on our videos, I really appreciate it. So this is from Patrick KH4BX. Book reader, enjoying season 2 even more than season 1. Same here, really. I also thought each of season 2 episode was better than the last. I definitely agree with that. From my perspective, the testing process in the show was fairly similar to Nynaeve's testing process in the books. The second test was closest to the books. The first test is the most different. Very interesting stuff here. It seems like Nynaeve doesn't have a lot of this backstory in the books. And then the third test was conceptually very similar to what occurs in the books, but amped up for the television. So that's really cool. So the arches are really interesting. And there was a really interesting thing that happened in the last episode. So I'm very glad to hear that they mirrored a lot of that very similar to here. So, for example, when the third archway closes in both show and the book, a new channels and it reopens in the books. That occurs fairly quickly, while in the show, the interlude lasts hours in the real world. Wow, that is very cool. Thanks for that information, Patrick. Uh, I'm very excited to see where this goes. I think Nynaeve has probably my favorite story going on, but I will say this episode things got very real. So let's get into it. So spoilers ahead. I mean, I guess I already did some spoilers for the previous episode, but that was the last episode. So spoilers ahead. We begin with Ishmael conjuring a person covered in blood. I knew this was going to be paid off this episode. That's part of what I'm really proud of. I'll get into it in a second. Then we catch up with Anvare, who's the fancy lady from the party that talked to Ran, who is visited by Moraine, who turns out to be her older sister. There's a really interesting dynamic here because obviously Moraine's off doing her own thing, but I think when people are, or when sometimes in fantasy when characters are ageless or they age very slowly, they don't realize how time affects people that the time is going by normally, right? So Moraine looks probably very similar to when her sister last saw her, but her sister, like the show did a lot of work to show that she has aged, and like she tries to also maintain a younger appearance in their own way, like with makeup and the wig and stuff like that, whereas Moraine, because of all the connection to the source and the channeling and magic, uh doesn't, like, remains young even though she is the older sister. But yeah, I thought Moraine's portrayal of like being very aloof to any feelings that her sister might have, because she's so focused, she doesn't understand how she's hurting the people around her. Hopefully that changes, because it's very similar with Lan, right? They've severed the bond. So yeah. Let's see. Next up, we have Celine and Ran as they recover from the burning. We'll get back to them. Nynaeve and Ewain finally have a quick chat after all the events of last episode. Lan is out in the Borderlands, which is, it looks like, whenever some of the whenever someone they lose the bond, like they kind of go, they're helping him recover from all that. So how does Alana fit into all this? I think we definitely get a payoff for that later on as well. She does mention that something happened to Moraine 20 years ago that changed her. This was before Lan even met her, and they forged their bond. So very interested to see what happened. Like if we're gonna explore that. We also have Moraine visits Logan. So they are all kind of like finally meeting up, which is something that I wanted to see. I wanted more people to be at least close in the vicinity, or even though they haven't really ran into each other, but like now both ran, and which is really fun because Moraine also brings wine, the same wine that Rand had brought to Logan, right? That was very cool. And then she shows him a knife. This knife probably has some kind of power or some kind of connection that Logan definitely wants. Maybe similar to the dagger. It may be the same dagger. I don't know. Sometimes I'm kind of a dummy, so I don't know if it's the same dagger that Matt touched or if it's a different one. I would think it's a different one because she was handling very, like, she was handling that one. So then we catch up with Ewing and Elaine. I do like the show jumping around to different things because it gives you time to breathe with some of this stuff. Like if we had just ran through all the Rand stuff together, I think it wouldn't have the same impact. I think so. There's not much there though, but I do like that they're building the relationship between Wayne and Elaine. Like they're very different individuals, but they're both brought to this place looking for the same thing, right? Uh, which is knowledge and how to improve their power. But obviously, Elaine comes from a very privileged background, where Elaine comes from a very humble beginnings. But I think the fact that they're both trying to do the same thing like really helps. Let's see. We see that Leandrin hears about an attack in the west. She goes and confronts like the main Aes Sedai as who's in charge now. That I think the other one's off somewhere. Sometimes it's hard for me to follow some of those tertiary characters that we don't see very often. But I don't know. I feel like Leandrin is always up to something, and sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe she's not that bad. Maybe she is. And then sometimes like she goes up and does shit like this and like confronts her, and I'm like, oh, maybe she is like she has her own angles. I don't know. The Reds are really, really tough to like put in some kind of spectrum of like, are they good? Like their alignment is very, very uh it's hard for me to tell where they fall. Let's see. Oh, we get really cool. Perrin and Elias, a Wolf Brother gang. Like they, he explains to him a little bit about his powers and what's going on, and how they've been following him for a little while because the visions that Perrin has, they see, like they also see them, and that's kind of how they've been keeping track of him. I want some wolf power training. First of all, whatever wolves they have on the set are adorable. And I know wolves are not pets. Wolves aren't pets. Don't go get a wolf. But I mean, in fantasy stories, like yeah, they look cool. I love wolves. Uh, they just visually look very cool as well. So, and their powers that they've shown in the show, I really, really like. I'm glad. I want Perrin to be the one to go and rescue all his friends, because I feel like that would be that's his arc, I think, at this point, right? He was captured. He's helpless. He has to learn how to use his powers. Hopefully, he's the one that liberates his friends because later on we see that Nynaeve also has some of those plans. So let's keep talking about here. Um, we see Maxim and Lan talk about the bond and how there's a lot of rules. There are so many rules to like all this stuff that's happened, like with the Aes Sedai and the wards and their bond. Like, man, it is crazy, like the relationships and how you can cloak the bond. Like I that's a little confusing, especially when they're just kind of throwing names around, and you don't know everybody. Like it's hard to keep up with that stuff, but I think it'd be fun to explore some of those relationships in the show, which I think the show will do. I think they brought it up for a reason. I think this show's very good at making sure that everything they talk about, everything they bring up, everything that happens at some point, like it's paid off later on, usually in the same episode. Uh, so okay, so we get a scene of Celine and Rand up, and this is probably the biggest spoiler in thing. So they're up at Kingslayer Dagger. Like they left off to the cabin, and I started thinking, wait a minute. They showed us that blood summoning at the beginning of the episode. This show doesn't do anything if they're not going to pay it off. And we don't know much about Celine. We don't know what she's doing and why she's so interested in Rand. Like, even after he, even after he burnt her in, like she's still, acts like she cares for him. And we've seen that she's kind of been there for some of his lowest moments. She helped him get the wine. So she wants to make sure that he's able to accomplish whatever he's doing. So that's when a little thing started clicking, and I wrote in my notes, "Is Celine the blood cover summoning?" So we'll leave it at that for now. We check in with Matt and Min, who also gets. Oh my goodness, what a payoff this for later as well. They're on the run. They're trying to meet somebody. They don't know who it's gonna be. So later on we do see. I'll skip to that part. Ishmael is the one that visits Min. What the fuck? That was so the actor playing Ishmael. What's his name? I didn't put it in the notes. He's really really good. Like very intimidating. And the camera does these like camera cuts that are going like zooming in and like focusing on his face, just like very intimidating, right? I'm glad the recap reminded me and established very clearly that Ishmael is like the lieutenant, or as they say, lieutenant of the Dark One, right? So all these people that are coming out, all these new entities, these are all like just the helpers of the Dark One, which is wild. At the end of last season, I was a little confused as to how that played out, but the show was very good to explain it in the recap. So let's see. Okay, Alana and Mascom discover the blood poem that we found last time, so they now know about the blood summoning. They know that Lanfear has been summoned back, and they know that Moraine knows this information because they found it in land stuff. So what are they going to do? How are they going to deal with it? We also see Nynaeve and Leandrin talk about the arches and Leandrin's son. Then Nynaeve realizes that she has to sneak off to help Perrin, and Egwene wants to go with them, and Elaine wants to go with them. So they're trying to put their little party together. And who shows up? Leandrin. She just pushes them, like she stops them cold. So I wonder. I don't know what her intentions are. Is she trying to help them make sure that they don't get expelled? I mean, Nynaeve wouldn't because she's already passed the test, so she can do whatever she wants. But the other two, they would have gotten in a lot of trouble had they left, even being kicked out of the White Tower. So is she trying to help them not make a mistake, or is she stopping them because she doesn't want them to help Perrin? Because she knows that there's stuff going on in the West. She got the news earlier. I don't know. That's very confusing. The actor who plays Leandrin, Kate Fleetwood, she she does so well at like her stern look is very misleading. So I don't know, and especially like I said, what do I do with the Reds? I can't trust the Reds. Okay, here we are at my favorite part of the episode because it completely closes it closes the wheel from the beginning of the episode. This show's fucking great. Rand and Celine are at Kingslayer Dagger. They are attacked, and then Celine discovers that Rand has power, and he thinks that she's now gonna leave him because obviously, when a male channels, like they go crazy and they turn into a monster or whatever, or at least that's the lore, that's the belief for everyone. But she doesn't see him as a monster. And then they go into the cabin about to have some sexy time, and she reveals that she's also a monster. And I was like, I knew it. That's the moment where I was like, I knew it. I've been paying attention, writing my notes. Like this paid off exactly as I thought it was going to happen 30 minutes ago. Readers of the book, you probably already knew what was going to happen there. So hopefully the reveal was satisfying to you. As somebody that hasn't read the books, I really, really enjoyed all that stuff and introducing such a great antagonist in such a sneaky way, right? Moraine does show up right on time. So Celine turns out to be Lanfear, daughter of the night, who the episode is named after. So I think readers of the book, they probably read that title and were like, "Oh, we know what's gonna happen." So hopefully that was really fun. But yeah, Moraine arrives just in time. She's lashed her throat. Very visceral episode, like very gruesome as well. On this one at the end, and yeah, they leave. Yeah, she convinces Rand to pack up their shit and leave. Who knows? They're probably going back to her house, I would think, before they run away. I feel like, oh man, I have a bad feeling about Moraine's sister. I think she might get caught in the crossfires of what's going on here. But anyways, they leave, and we do see that Lanfear opens her eyes up again, even though she's just had like she's been stabbed and her throat's been slit. So wow, wow, what a great episode. I really enjoyed this one. Like I said, I think Celine's performance really sold everything that was happening there. So that was really cool. And yeah, I'm very excited. A lot of questions. I did see the preview. I won't talk about the preview for next week, but I did see the preview, and we are in for what I think is going to be a treat. So very excited to see what happens here. So once again, if you have read the book and you can answer or add context to any of the stuff I just went through in the video, make sure to leave it in the comments. If it's something fun or good, I'll definitely share it at the next review. And of course, thank you for watching. Thanks for watching, everyone, whether you're a reader of the book, somebody that just got into the TV show like myself, or just somebody that stumbled on this video. However, thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone.